Warning. You're now entering a stream that isn't suitable for everyone. Be warned that this channel will have swearing, singing, sexual innuendos and lots of jokes that could easily offend. It is advised that you must be a little bit weird yourself to enjoy this channel, as those that thrive and enjoy the stream are weird in their own little ways. The chat is called El Chatty and is a wonderful community. It really is. However, again, it might not be for everyone. We want to hear everyone's opinion, no matter what it is. We encourage debate as long as it's done respectfully. If you're easily offended or don't like differing views, then again, this channel is not for you. By entering this stream you do so at your own risk. If you want to try it out, that's absolutely fine, but if you don't like it, no need to announce your departure, you can just leave quietly, as this isn't an airport.
Ole, 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 Erin hack, 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 ole, Erin hack, 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 ole, let's go, Erin hack, 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 ole, Erin hack, 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 ole. Press the like, press the like, press the like, please. Press the like and subscribe. It would mean the world to me if you liked and subscribe. Like and subscribe, everyone. Let's fucking go. Hello, everybody. We are back. Cynthia, my darling. Hello to you, my darling. Hope you're well, Cynthia. I'm still looking forward to one of your cookies. Chocolate chip, maybe. Thank you, Cynthia. Nice to see you, my darling. Everyone else here, hello to you all. That's come in. Great merch video. It is, Dana. Very good merch video, Dana. Thank you to you, sir. I have had some people send me photos of themselves with the merch gear. Thank you. We'll put another push on that once we get a few more through. But yeah, we are back. The judge is always late. It's 1 o'clock Easter. Judge is always late, so there's no surprise that we will not be starting on time. Boosted it for Deb. Ashley, how are you, my friend? Hope you're well. Nice to see you. Nice. I just love. It must be love. Dana Pumpkin. Dana loves dressing up as a pumpkin. It must be love. For Tracy. I don't know how Tracy deals with you. I do not know, Dana. Do not know how she deals with you. But I know how she deals with you. You're a funny guy. Fair play to you. I think it's hilarious. The 3 inches one as well. I'll try to get it. I played that the other day. Hilarious. Bill isn't coming around as much. Well, I think you scared him, Daffy Dill. I think he's scared now. You talk about anal beads and stuff like that, so I think he's run off. Neither do I. No, I know how she's with you, my friend. Good balance. As I always say, you and Tracy have good balance. She's got the looks, the intelligence, the brains, the common sense. She basically got everything, and then you just complete opposite. So, but I'm also complete opposite. So, what does that say about me? I don't know. I'm not sure. Here we go. Yes, before people love coming in here and say, Sean's going live. Yeah, he's going live at 3 o'clock Eastern to talk about Plevin, the arsehole. Obviously, you've got a choice to watch it live or, and watch the rest of this on Replay Crew or vice versa. Watch it here and then watch that. I mean, I always watch the replay because if you think Sean sees your comment, if he sees your comment in chat, it's like a miracle. Do you know what I mean? So unless you obviously pay for the privilege, then it's different. Deb, I have done it already, Deb. I boosted it. Did you really make that pumpkin costume or a Photoshop? Dana, good question, Dana. Good question, Dana. There you go, Dana. I believe he wore it last Halloween. Look at that. Perfect, Dana. Dana's the pumpkin man. Dana's the pumpkin man. Dana loves pumpkins. He loves his pumpkins. Dana's the pumpkin man. Dana. No worries at all, my darling. Really? Yeah, he's wearing it now, he says. Way, Dana. Bugger the Speedos. We want Dana in the pumpkin costume. Not Speedos anymore. That's all. That was yesterday's news. Now we're all about Dana and the pumpkin costumes. Da, 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 da. Holy night. Dana. Pumpkin. Dana loves his Speedos and pumpkins. Pumpkin dressed in his Dana's forte. It's too cold for Speedo. It's cold for Speedos. I agree, it's too cold. That's what I always say. Even if it was like really hot, and the girl's like, "What's that in your What's that in your Speedos? It's nothing. It's just a prawn. Oh, what's that?" I always say it's too cold. Too cold. Yeah, come visit Texas. It's still like 3 degrees. Perfect Speedos. But not perfect if you're a grower, not a shower. Hey, unless you see Sarah P, then you'll grow pretty quickly. Oi, oi. Sarah P, Sarah P, Sarah P, 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 Sarah P, Sarah P, Sarah P is lovely. Yeah, Dana the Pumpkin Man. Yeah, he is Dana the Pumpkin Man. He loves spanking spam. Dana loves spanking his pumpkin and something. Dana's a pumpkin man. 3 is a lot. 3 is massive. That is, yeah, I love that. I love that. If you were here on Friday, you were seeing it, the joke that we posted on from Facebook from Dana's account. Squashing the Speedos, lol. Dev. You can see the nipples underneath me. It looks like I'm part of it now. Oi, 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 hey baby, oi, oi, with the nippies. It's cold outside in the month of October. Dana likes his nips hard and slender. I want you know Dana's got a pumpkin fetish. Dana likes pumpkin. Makes his nipples go hard. They go perky and hard. Oh, Dana, they go perky and hard. Oh, ha, ha, ha. Oh, 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 Dana Lena. Oh. Right, court is back, but then the jury's not there, so we're still going to wait a few more minutes for the jury to get back. They will go to the exit sign, possibly, and then does just because he has to behave and not show his tatas. I am no longer showing my tatas. No longer show my tatas. My tits are mine. But it does look like I'm in there with my tits. My nips are out. It does look like I've just put my t-shirt up. Hey. No, I'm no longer, I'm retired from getting my tits out. Because I'll get another strike. Dana's the best. He paid me to say that. Ba-da-ba-da-da-da. Tracy's the best. Da, 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 da. Tracy Murray, she's the best. Da, da, da. What's she doing with Dana Leonard? No one has a clue. Not even Dana. Da, 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 da. Dana hasn't got a clue. Da, da, da. How he landed a smoke show. Dana must have done some glow. I don't know. I don't know what they did Christmas. Just like Sarah P, whether I'm in pumpkin speedos and wearing a full uniform. Sarah P loves it. Sarah P loves it. Sarah P, I love Sarah P. Dee, dee. Everybody needs good neighbors with a little understanding that you might be living next to Dana. Hello, Patricia. Neighbors. Everybody needs good neighbors. You'll need a little understanding if you got Dana as a neighbor. Du-du-du. Can you imagine Dana as your neighbor? He would get his pumpkins and speedos out. You can imagine Dana in his speedos and pumpkins to cover his tits. I loves it. Bare necessities. Dana's very bare necessities. Did anyone watch the Chicago Bears Washington Commanders last night? What was that? What was that? Unbelievable. What was that? Unbelievable finish to it. And you Patriots guys, whoa, big win for you yesterday. But I think, yeah, you know, because you won the number one pick. What would you do if you had the number one pick? Would you get another quarterback? Would you stick him in May? Or yeah, Robin, I go croc. I thought you said cock. I was like croc. I wear my thong when I do yard work. My neighbours love it. We all love it, Dana. We all love it, Dana. Right, we're back. Guess who's back, back again? The trial is back. Tell a friend.
Farris, we can proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Amanda, I would remind you, you are still under oath.
Yes, sir.
So let's move forward post July the 5th. What did you notice about the change in your family dynamics?
After that had happened, I immediately had to take care of my mom. It was probably July 6th. All of my brothers and sister looked at me and said, all right, you take her. And so I immediately had her with me. She lived with us, I can't tell you how long, months. Because she didn't
want. This was in 2018.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
After everything had happened, this was like July 6th forward. And she lived with us. She didn't want to go back to the property. Eventually it came to the point of like, okay, you can go now. And so she went back, but I had to help pay for house insurance and car insurance and power bills and things like that. So I was kind of having to take care of the situation from that point. But Emily went back to Tennessee. Chris was in Atlanta, and Scott, I think, was staying at somebody's house, I guess, or went back to the property once it was, well, I know he went back to the property after it was released. I don't know if he stayed with a friend for a while.
Okay. Were you ever part of any discussions with an attorney who told everybody not to talk?
Correct.
Okay.
On July 6th, I guess it was. I don't remember.
Friday, the next day?
Yes. It would have, somebody, I don't know who it was. Maybe it was a consensus thing, but essentially it was, we needed somebody to help us. We didn't know what was going on.
Here, from that time period, if you need to look for the date.
I didn't know what to do at that moment, but I knew that, what you see on TV, let's get an attorney to handle it. And somebody gave me Eric Durlacker's number. I did not have it, so somebody gave it to me. I don't know if it was one of my siblings or my mom. I have no idea. I can't remember. So I called him and I said, I need help. I don't know what to do. I need somebody to guide me through this, or take care of it. Really is what I wanted. I was like, take care of this.
Was this, by the way, and sorry to cut you off,
You're fine.
But timeline wise, was this while your mother was being interviewed by Detective Hayes?
Correct.
Okay.
This was the day of the 6th, so okay. Friday. And I called Eric, I don't know what time, and he just gave me Manny's number and told them that Deputy Hayes had my mother in the room and was questioning Scott, and they said, well, just let them know that she has an attorney. And we told him a couple of times, but she stayed in there for another hour or so. And then she finally came out and we went to the attorney's office. Everybody as a family went down there.
And that's when he said, y'all stop talking. Everybody stop talking.
Correct.
Anybody who knows anybody, stop talking.
Correct.
Okay. So when did it become apparent, or what could you tell from Scott and Chris breaking off from the family?
They eventually got very angry and irritated. I know Chris got mad at me because I told one of the detectives, I think his name was Tommy, that he decided not to go on vacation. Apparently that was a problem. He said we aren't supposed to talk to the attorney. So we were all on the same page.
You mean law enforcement?
Yes, sorry, law enforcement. That we should basically just go to the attorney if we have any questions, and just to keep to ourselves, and that's it. And he was handling the situation, the attorney.
In this time period or ever before, had you ever heard your brother Scott say, this is my property?
Yes.
This is my house?
Multiple times. He flaunted the fact that that was his property. I almost kind of like joked in a way he kind of vicariously lived through my dad.
Kind of like the movie Step Brothers. You ever seen that?
I don't know if they took ownership of their dad's stuff.
Well,
but yeah,
okay.
I mean, in that same situation and grown up, still living at home. Yes, I could see it in that aspect.
But he would claim things as his that were not his. That's fair to say.
They belong to my mother and my father.
Okay. And you say, I mean, how often would you hear him say this?
He wouldn't say it like all the time, but it was always just like my farm, my property, my Kubota. He would get on social media. He would say, this is my property. I mean, he claimed ownership to it. That's for sure.
Okay. And speaking of social media, Had you ever seen your brother shoot guns or anything like that?
He was in the military. He was always shooting guns at the house,
Okay.
from what I was heard and what he said.
Did you ever see any of his videos on social media?
No.
Okay. But you knew he was always shooting guns.
He was always doing something around there, but yeah, I know it was a known thing that they used to go and I don't know if he would hunt stuff. I don't really know how that works because there were so many houses that were in close proximity, but I know that he would have leisurely kind of shootings back there.
Okay. So going on through late July and things like that, just to kind of talk about it, were there any issues? Did you ever have any communication or talk to Rusty during that time?
No.
Had you ever met him yet?
No.
Okay. And that would have been what, later on, about 2019 that you communicated with Rusty Barton?
When she was arrested, that was the first time I personally spoke to him.
Okay.
That I can recall.
All right. But you'd known during this time, you'd heard about Rusty Barton, yes?
Yes, there were rumors, but I didn't know the depths of it until the preliminary hearing.
So that was in 2019.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
Right about the
Because
time
she was
your
already
brother-
arrested at that point. So, yeah, I didn't know about all the meetings and all of that kind of stuff. That was new to me at the preliminary hearing.
Okay. So going back to, tell me about the estate and how things were managed with the siblings for the family.
What do you mean?
Was your brother appointed as the executor of the estate?
Nobody was. The estate was locked down immediately when the house was locked down. My mother couldn't go down the road and get a sandwich if she wanted to. She was totally reliant on me from day one.
Well, I guess I'm talking more about, there was properties that were owned by the family, and was your brother Chris ever appointed over that?
My sister at one point got a coroner's letter that we did not know about. My mother had tried to get a lady named Diane to help her figure out what needed to be done with the estate because it had been so long. And that's when she went to the courthouse and realized that Chris had filed for, I don't know what you call it, for the estate, but he was given ownership of the estate and we did not know.
Okay. Well, tell me how that went.
Not well. I know that it turned into, I texted Emily at one point and I said, Diane's told me that there's been money taken out and my dad owned the condo that my sister lived in Tuscaloosa and said that it had, I don't know if it went into foreclosure or whatnot, but a property management company was in charge of, they would get the check and then Daddy, I assume, would give it to the mortgage company at that point. And it was not being done. So the condo was lost.
And that was the condo in Tuscaloosa.
Correct. And that's when I petitioned to have the third party estate attorney. So none of us had our hands on it. It was purely an outside source. And I did not know that was an option until my mother spoke to Diane.
And so did they loop you in on any of this, Chris and Scott and Emily?
No.
Right. So you were kind of left on the outside.
Nobody talked to me about it.
And is that because you were the only one showing any support for your mother?
I had to take care of her. I had no option but to take care of her at that point. Emily ran off back to Tennessee, and Chris and Scott were no help. I financially took care of a lot that first year. It was really hard on us, but we did it because it had to be done. God forbid something happened to the house. And I mean, the mortgage was over almost probably $5,500 a month. And then the home insurance, I paid for that. So if anything were to happen to it, we wouldn't be in a really big situation, but that was $600 a month. Paid for the car insurance on all of the cars, including Scott's. And that's kind of where Scott and I fell out.
Over his car?
Over his car, because I was having to pay the car insurance and he didn't have a job at the time. And it was really hard to get money out of him. And I didn't have the money to be paying for all of that. So it just got into arguments, and it finally, when Jeff Restbridge, the state attorney, got appointed, I just said, please defer all your questions to him because it was a losing battle.
Did you ever become aware that Scott would call law enforcement, 911 on your mother pretty regularly in 2019?
From my mother.
Okay. Did you ever hear any of these calls, or did it come up on an altercation between the two of them?
No, she would always call me and say what was happening, and I told her she either needed to audio record it or video record it, or nobody was going to believe her.
Your father was a very large man. Do you know how much he weighed?
280, 290, 300.
Right in that area?
I mean, he was 6'5". I'm 5'7", and I came up to his chest right about here.
Okay. How much do you think your mother weighs?
125 pounds soaking wet.
Okay. Does she have any physical conditions of note?
She had scoliosis really bad. She's had it all of her life.
How bad? Like, is her back?
Yeah, if you look at it, I mean, there's probably a couple inches difference from the side of her back to the other. She got kicked in the leg by one of the horses, and she was in a cast for a really long, one of those kind of, I think it was like a soft cast for a while, but she couldn't walk. She had to do rehabilitation on that. But other than that, I mean, she's been active, I guess you would say.
Your Honor, if I may have a moment. That's all this time, Your Honor.
Hi, Mr. Farris.
Thank you.
Amanda, I want to begin with, you testified a lot today about, I guess, how you view certain evidence. Is that fair to say?
I don't know what you mean by that.
Have you kind of, when the defense counsel will ask you questions, you would respond, and that's really based on what you know in this case or your beliefs. Is that fair?
I would say it's mostly opinion, but I don't know much about anything. All I know is from when Deputy Hayes told me about that my father was shot, and that was from my mother the very first night at Freehome Fire Station, and then what we know in the preliminary hearing.
I'm sorry, what was that last part?
The preliminary hearing.
Okay. On July 5th, 2019, almost actually a year to the day that your father's remains were found, there was a preliminary hearing where certain evidence was introduced that gave you more knowledge of the case. Is that true?
Yes, sir.
But what I want to go through is you do not have any personal knowledge of the details of what happened July 3rd, 2018 from 9:30 p.m. to 2:30 a.m. the next morning. You don't have any personal knowledge of what happened, right?
No, sir.
You don't have any personal knowledge of what happened on January 4th, 2018 from about 6:30 that morning until about 2 p.m. when your mom came to the lake where you were at, right?
Only what she told me, that she was coming to see me.
And you would agree with me that a lot of what you know or has been told to you by your mom.
Absolutely.
You agree that a major source of your information, the predominant overreaching source of information is from what your mom told you, right?
Correct.
I mean, an example of that is things that happen outside of your presence, whether it was what Scott said or Chris said, your mother would come back and say, this is what happened, right?
Some agree, but I would be with my brothers if they said something directly to me.
Right, but if you were not at the house when afterwards there were questions about the property and things like that, if your mom was just there, she'd come back and tell you her version of things that happened, right?
Correct.
So it depends a lot on her credibility when what she says, right?
Absolutely.
You know there's evidence of her lying through this trial?
I don't know. I mean, if it was in the preliminary hearing, maybe.
But you agree with me that credibility counts, right?
Yes, sir.
I mean, your credibility,
Yes, sir.
not just in what you say, but also how you say it.
Yes, sir.
I mean, are you trying to testify here objectively, not your thumb on the scales at all? You're just trying to say, this is what I know?
This is just what I know. It's not my job to figure out what happened.
And so when you choose your words, sometimes like you said, that Emily ran back to Tennessee. You used the word run. Is that just your opinion on what she did?
Yes, I felt like she abandoned me and did not help me.
You don't have any personal knowledge of who was present at your mom and dad's house on July 3rd, 2018 from 9:30 p.m. to 2:30 a.m., right?
No.
You don't know what happened or who was present to do anything, correct?
I mean, my mother, I assume my mother was there, and I assumed Scott, but that was because she told me Scott came home that night.
Okay, but you don't have any personal knowledge of that, right?
No.
It's just based on what she said.
Yeah, because I wasn't there, so I wouldn't know.
And July 4th, that Wednesday, you don't have any personal knowledge of what your mother was doing on the property before she came to see you at the lake, right?
Only what she told me, she was working on the property.
But she did say she was working on the property, right?
Correct.
But outside of that, you have no personal knowledge of the actual events in this case that led to the murder of your father.
No.
You don't know any circumstances about where your father was shot with one bullet, do you?
No.
You don't know any circumstances about where your father was shot with another bullet, do you?
No.
You don't know where in the house it was done?
Just, I don't think that was brought up in the preliminary hearing. I just think that, I don't even know if they even said that he was shot in the house.
And you don't know how, what was done in this case to conceal the crime, right?
No.
You have no personal knowledge.
No.
You're just testifying to the best of your ability of things that occurred kind of before and after. Is that fair?
You have very, very limited information.
Now, you also don't have any personal knowledge, although you'd agree if two people in a conversation, those two people have knowledge of what was said, assuming everything's normal, they would know what was talked about in conversations, right?
What do you mean?
If you and I were having a conversation like we are now, I mean, you would know and I would know because we're intentionally trying to relay information and messages to one another. We would know what's going on, right?
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, assuming we're not insane or anything like that, we would know what was said or what was actually said or not said, correct?
Yeah, if you were only there to see it yourself, that's the only way you truly know.
Sure. And you would agree with me that in this case, we're testifying many years later than when the actual stuff occurred, right?
Oh, yes.
And sometimes you can do, when you're looking back on what happened, it wasn't at the time. So sometimes even with the passage of time, whether it's from memory or from intent, sometimes you don't remember exactly what was said.
Absolutely.
But your memory is usually better at the time that something was said than, say, 6 years down the road. Is that fair?
Repeat that?
Generally speaking, your memory when you say something at that time is better than your memory of what was said maybe 6 years after the fact.
I think certain things stick with you more than others, but time definitely is not helpful.
And I think that's fair. And so if you were told that Gary's in the burn pile, that would be something that would stick with you, right?
Yes.
So you don't have any personal knowledge what was said between your mother and her lover, Rusty, on July 3rd, 2018 at 9:26 p.m.
No.
Did you know they talked for 4 minutes that day?
It was brought out in the preliminary hearing that they had a phone call.
Did she ever tell you exactly what they said during that phone call?
I did not discuss anything with her.
And you have no personal knowledge of what was said between your mom and Rusty on July 3rd, 2018 at 11:28 p.m. where they talked for 5 minutes, do you?
No, I didn't know they were communicating at that time.
And it shocked you when you found out, right?
When I found out they
About
were,
Rusty.
About Rusty, yes. When I found out at the preliminary hearing that they had the relationship that they did, that was very shocking.
Yeah, it shook your world, didn't it?
Yes, but it wasn't the first time.
On July 3rd, you have no personal knowledge of what was said between your mom and the defendant on your mom and Rusty on July 3rd, 2018 at 11:45 p.m. where they talked for an hour and 14 minutes, do you?
No.
You don't know what was said between your mom and Rusty on July 4th, 2018 at 2:20 a.m. where they talked for about 36 minutes, right?
No, I don't.
You do know that Rusty came back and, quote, recanted that statement in some way, right?
They said that in the preliminary hearing, yes.
But afterwards, your mother told you to go and talk to Rusty, didn't she?
She had asked me to
And y'all did talk to Rusty.
when she was arrested.
And y'all talked to him about that, right?
The only thing I remember talking to him was when I asked him, because I heard in the preliminary hearing that she said he's on the burn pile, whatever it was. I said, did she say that? And he said no.
And you have no idea what was said between your mom and Rusty since July 5th, 2018, even up to this day, right?
No.
You do have personal knowledge of your loyalty to your mother, though, don't you?
I have loyalty to my mother and my father, yes.
I think you said on direct your words, you have a loyalty to your mother to a fault.
Yes. I think anybody I feel that way towards.
And it's fair to say that you're biased in favor of your mom.
I wouldn't say how I'm biased in favor of it. I believe that somebody is innocent until they're proven guilty.
So would you say that you do believe in your mom, though?
She has told me that she's not guilty, and all I can do is believe that until somebody can prove she is guilty. So I would like to believe that my mother had nothing to do with this. Some may call it denial, but I call it honoring my mother, and I would do the exact same thing if it was for my dad.
But you won't do that same thing for Scott or Chris, though, will you?
No, it's very hard to explain, but not talking to them is alienating them. Again, communication is a two-way street. It's not just me that turned away, and it's okay that I turned away. It's even in the Bible that says that it's okay that I turned away.
I want to talk to you about your foundation for testifying today and some of your knowledge. Have you talked to, now, when I say this, there's nothing wrong. The two attorneys here are honorable men. I consider them friends. They're honorable. Don't hear me saying that. But I did want to know, you've talked with them on several occasions, right?
Correct.
When was the last time that you talked with Mr. Ray or Mr. Weaver?
We talked today?
How many, did you meet with them to practice or go over your testimony?
No.
Did you talk about what you're going to say?
No.
Did they give you, do you have any discovery?
Do I have any discovery? No.
You haven't listened to any recordings?
No.
Have you read anything?
No.
Have you watched anything on TV?
I've seen it pop up on the news, and I've had people troll my Facebook account.
Has your husband, Chad Bruce, told you anything about the case?
Not that I'm aware of.
Has anybody in any shape or form given you information about the case?
People have tried to come up and communicate, and I have to stop them.
But you have talked to your mom about the case, and she's giving you details of her version of things, right?
She more and I talked about it the first year after this happened. When she was arrested, we had phone calls, and then it just got to a certain point. I had my son, and I didn't feel like talking about this anymore. And when she came to live with us, it was a rule that I set down, and I said, we are not going to discuss this because it was best for everybody, and it wasn't needed.
So if you could shrink the world down to the person that you've got most of your information from, it's not going to be the attorneys, correct?
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be Scott and Chris, correct?
No, I guess not.
It's going to be your mom, right?
Everybody has their own opinion of everything, so I take everything with a grain of salt.
But my question is, it's going to be your mom, right?
I guess since I've seen her the most, that would make the most plausible answer, I assume.
So yes, it would be your mom.
Yes.
This is Payne 1. This was Emily's wedding, is that right?
Yes,
Now, these are better days here for the family,
it was.
and everybody's looking great, smiling, looking wonderful.
It was a really good day.
Would you like to be able to go back to those days?
Yes.
Now, I know a child cannot measure the love for their mother, but you do love your mom, right?
And my dad, yes.
And you are her child?
Yes.
You're her daughter.
That is correct.
You're her favorite daughter, aren't you?
I wouldn't say that.
You're her favorite child, aren't you?
I wouldn't say that.
Do you say that she has the same positive feelings towards the other three as she does to you as we sit here?
I think my mother equally talked about us positively and negatively.
You're the only child that's siding with her, though, correct?
I'm the one that's choosing to believe that she's innocent until proven guilty.
And it's your belief. I understand that. But again, my question is, you're the only one that's on her side or choosing to believe as you do, correct?
I'm the only one choosing to believe in the justice system.
And you're the only one that's had a continuing relationship with her since the murder of your father, right?
Yes.
In fact, at times, you've not only been a daughter and a child of her, but you've been an advocate for her, right?
I have been a support system in the sense of I had to be the strength when nobody else would be.
And what I mean by that, there are times that she would call you from jail or contact you somehow when she's out, and she would ask you to go and talk to other people and do things, right?
Correct.
She would get you, whether it's with the house or meeting with the attorney, she wanted you to relay certain information. Is that fair?
She wanted to, but sometimes I would, sometimes I wouldn't. A lot of times I would say yeah, and then I wouldn't do it.
But times you would, right?
Yes.
And you haven't heard the jail calls that we have between you and her. You haven't seen that at trial, have you?
No.
So you don't know what has been said between you and her that the jury already knows about, right?
No, I know it. Potentially, if I heard it, I would obviously, if it was a conversation between us.
And you agree with me that your relationship with your brothers and sisters has soured since all this happened?
Unfortunately.
And it upsets you because they're not taking up for your mom, right?
No, it upsets me because it shows how much that they love me. It has nothing to do with her. It has everything to do with I'm their sister, and they left me.
You feel like you've been abandoned?
Yes, I lost my whole family that day.
Would you agree with me that you lost your family because your father's been murdered?
That was the cause and reaction, I guess you would say.
And from their standpoint, it's fair to see that they have feelings that their mother has murdered their father, so they have hard feelings because of that.
And rightfully so.
Now, you talking about, I was asking you earlier about your beliefs and your opinions on things, and you do give some information. Like, do you remember telling the defense on direct examination that on July 4th of 2018, you just wanted to have a quiet time with your family at Lake Lanier? Is that
what I want every day of my life?
And you talked about that's because there was drama with Chris and Jenna the year before, right?
Correct.
There's usually more to the story than just what one side brings out at times. Isn't that true?
I could say that's true.
Your husband, Chad Bruce, is kind of a prankster. He teases people, doesn't he?
He's funny. He likes to have fun.
So you talk about Jenna getting upset that day and all that, but that day in 2017, y'all actually scared Jenna twice, didn't you?
It may have been twice. I know of once because she was not very happy with me.
Yeah, one time when she was sitting in the car and went up and scared her. The next time y'all hid behind a bush when she came by and scared her again, right?
I know about the bush, yes.
Yeah. And then she got so upset that afterwards because she didn't want to be scared and you did it twice that she actually kicked a drink and went all over you and Chad, right?
Correct.
And you basically had to talk to Chad and say, hey.
I mean, I wouldn't have to talk to him, but
It made y'all mad, didn't it?
I wouldn't say it made us mad. We were just like, I think that was a bit of an overreaction. We were just having a good time.
Well, you tell all the people that at that point you decided to never go back out with them again.
That was because of their drinking.
But you can understand if you get scared twice, it can upset people, right?
I understand that it was insensitive at the time, but it was all in good fun.
Could be bullying.
The girls were with us when we did that, I believe. I'm almost positive that they were with us.
Well, it could be offensive or bullying somebody if you do it twice in one day, right?
I think that's a bit much to say. They're my brother and my sister-in-law. I've known them forever.
But that's how you felt about it, right?
What do you mean?
How you feel about the situation is kind of your beliefs, right?
I guess you would say that. Yes, everybody has their own opinion.
Now, through this, there's been times when you talked about, you had a lot of emotions earlier today. You were crying a lot, and it's tough for you, isn't it, to do this, isn't it?
Yes, I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. This is the worst thing anybody could go through.
But throughout this process, you actually had different emotions where you were angry or irritated towards your family. Is that fair?
I had a lot of anger for many years after this.
And how we see you today, how you emote today, it's not necessarily how you emoted on a jail call or how you had your emotions you would have around Scott or Chris, right?
Yeah, I've done a lot. I've come in a relationship with God, and I've had my son, and that has drastically changed my life and my outlook and how I handle certain situations.
And so you have gotten upset and gotten on them, barked back with them as they barked with you in the past, right?
I would say so. I mean, I've reviewed text messages knowing that this trial has come, and I know that I understand why they feel the way they do. I do. I really do understand, and they're rightful for that. But I don't feel like the way that they treated me in response was needed, to the point of where when my dad's mother died, they didn't even tell me she had a stroke and she was on her deathbed. I had to find out through my aunt on social media because my siblings didn't even have the common courtesy to tell me.
You're upset with them.
At that time, yes.
And there are two main categories that y'all were, whether you want to say arguing or disagreeing over or having hard times over. It was the murder of your father. That's one, right?
Yes, very
And
hard.
then the other is, what do we do with the estate afterwards, correct?
Correct.
So one was the murder and the other was kind of related to money or property, right?
It was always an argument. It couldn't ever be civil. It always had to be an issue. And I was doing everything that was legal. I worked with the estate attorney. I did everything I was supposed to, and everybody knew what I was doing.
And I think the term you were trying to find earlier, because I'm a lawyer and I forget it too, because I don't do that as a temporary administrator of the estate.
That sounds correct.
And that's what Chris was he had been appointed a temporary administrator.
He had petitioned or whatever, I don't know what you call it, but he went to the courthouse and was able to get.
Right. And so if someone dies without a will, their estate is probated, has to go through the court system, correct?
As far as I know, yes.
I mean, that's why you got other people, you got a third party, I think you described as, it's in the court system, right?
Yes, I wanted somebody that was not tied to the family to handle it.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's common sense. That's very good because family can have lots of hard feelings or strong feelings, right?
Yes,
So a third party is a good thing, correct?
absolutely.
But until you get to that, sometimes the family has to be involved in what's going on, right?
Correct.
And when you try to get property back, because part of the thing that you have to do is make sure that the estate doesn't dissipate or go away. You have to protect it.
Correct.
So your view may be when it comes to getting things back like the Mercedes or something like that, you may disagree in how they're doing it, but you would agree that they would have a duty to try to make sure all property is accounted for, right?
Absolutely.
It just upset you that it was your brother at times and the way you did it.
I was upset because I was having to pay car insurance, and then I had to drop car insurance on, I think, the Sequoia or something. But basically he was taking his truck and the Sequoia and things like that. But it was always an argument, and I didn't want to be responsible for any of it anymore.
You didn't ask for any of this, did you?
God,
No, you don't want this. No.
no.
You know, they say most divorces happen over money. You've heard that before?
Yes.
Money causes a lot of problems in many ways, right? But in your situation, you not only have money, but you have murder, right?
Guess, yeah.
I mean, you agree your father was murdered, right?
Yes.
Now, when your mom, at times, through years, she was living with you and Chad at one point?
In the very beginning, yes. And then after she came home. Yeah.
She would eat your food, use your resources, stay at your house, things like that?
Stage my house?
She would use your resources,
stay.
your food, money,
She was
electricity.
100% reliant on me.
Now, do you know David and Alan?
Yes.
Do you see Alan here in court today?
Yes.
They're good friends,
Of hers, yes.
and they've been helping her out during this time.
I believe so, yes.
Let me ask you some questions about your dad. As you look at the photograph, was this a happy day for everybody?
It was.
How much do you love your dad?
My dad? He's the best thing that ever happened to me. I miss him.
He was a great provider.
Absolutely.
He would take care of Chris.
He took care of all of us.
You, Scott, Emily, provided everything for y'all, right?
Yes.
And he gave money to them.
Yes.
And at times, you understand that, do you not, that his money, the money he earned, that's his money. You can also say it's her money too, but he's earned that money. You understand that that's his money.
He can do whatever he wants with it.
That's right. He can do whatever he wants. So if he wanted to treat one child different from another child, he could do that, right?
That was his prerogative. Yes.
That was his prerogative. If he wanted to give money to Chris, even when Chris is not doing what he should be doing in your eyes, he could still do that, right?
It was his money.
Yeah, if he wanted Scott to live in the land and just kind of freeload for a while until he gets his feet, if it was beneficial for him, he could do that, right?
That's what he chose to do.
If he wanted to give Emily money for something, give her a loan or whatever it was, it's his money. He could do that, right?
All you had to do was ask.
But there are many times that you would disagree with that and voice your disagreement to other people, right?
Repeat that.
You would have your own opinions at times that you didn't like that.
He told me he was very upset. He made it clear that he did not necessarily like giving out money. He told me that directly.
My question is that you would voice to other people throughout this process that you didn't think it was fair, or you didn't like how he was, Chris or Scott or Emily were using, getting money from your dad. You didn't like that, did you?
I think they needed to grow up and stop asking their dad for money.
And you made it known to many people that that's how you felt, right?
I guess.
Your dad gave you, I think, 2 cars. Is that right?
We all got a new vehicle when we got our driver's license.
Pay for your college when you went?
Yep.
Pay for your apartment?
At college, yes.
Gave you $8,000 for the venue for your wedding?
I think it was 6, maybe 8.
6,000?
I don't know, something like that. It was just the deposit. Well, it didn't give me the money, but he paid for it.
Do you know how much you paid overall for your wedding?
I didn't get to have a wedding, so just the deposit on Foxhall.
You didn't have a wedding?
I had a wedding, but Chad and I fully funded it.
And did you know that your mother, if your mother ever asked Emily about for the loan? That
She
your
had
dad
said
gave her?
something about Emily having a loan.
Did you know that? Do you know whether or not your mother, after the death of your dad, went to Emily and said, "I need that money back"?
I think so, but I'm not 100% sure.
Did your mom ask any money back from you for anything?
She wouldn't need money from me.
She didn't ask you for any money back, did she?
I mean, I had to support her, but I never had taken cash from my father since I was in my early 20s.
You made on direct. You talked about that your dad's view was, I think he actually said to you, you told law enforcement during the interview that your dad said something along the lines of, once you're married, done, no exceptions. Do you remember that?
I don't know in what context you mean.
When it came to you talking about the view of your father, there was troubles with Ted Wiley, how your dad viewed marriage. Because you talked to him one day, I think, about after he helped you move out of the apartment with the other boyfriend. Y'all sitting in a restaurant eating. Mom gets up, remember that? And you say, Dad,
She wasn't there with us.
Okay. Do you remember telling law enforcement or statements that your dad's view was basically once it's a marriage you're in?
He said he loved her and he wanted to be with her.
You remember there was a time you said that I think you were talking to Cameron, insisting that she understands that in marriage, if you make a vow to somebody, you take that seriously.
I don't recall that.
Remember your dad saying, in your words, saying something like, "I'm glad one of my children understands the loyalty you're supposed to have in a marriage"?
That could sound something like my dad would say.
So in your mind, is is it accurate to say, in your mind, what you understood your dad, once he was in this marriage with the defendant, he was not going to divorce her?
No, he never seemed at one point that he was going to divorce her.
So she was stuck in the marriage because he wasn't going to divorce her.
I begged them both to divorce each other because they were miserable, and I was sick of hearing about it.
So it would have taken something outside of your dad for the marriage, for her to leave that marriage, right?
One more time, I'm sorry.
It would have taken something outside of your dad. Your mother would have had to do something to leave that marriage.
No, I think my mother could have left at any time, and so could have my dad. They both were grown. I think they could have both made that decision, but I think they just wanted to stay married.
At some point, you thought your dad was paranoid about your mom cheating on him. Is that true?
I think that's fair to say ever since she had the affair with Ted.
Right. And the word you used when you talked to law enforcement, you just said you thought your dad was paranoid about your mom possibly cheating on him. You ever use that word, paranoid?
No, but rightfully so. If you have a partner that cheats on you, I don't think that feeling would ever go away.
Right. But have you come to learn that she actually was cheating on your dad with Rusty?
And since then, yes,
It's not paranoid when it's true, correct?
absolutely. I don't blame him for how he felt.
But that other piece of evidence that you didn't have, that new information that she was having an affair with Rusty, that changes things, doesn't it?
I mean, in what sense?
That you thought your dad one time was paranoid because you thought mom was not cheating. Then you get new facts, evidence, and find out mom's cheating. That changes your view on things, doesn't it?
It changes my views, but at the same time, it wasn't shocking because I knew what she did with Ted.
So facts and other things that come to light can have an effect on how you view things, right?
I think it can.
Now, you say that you did not know about Rusty Barton and the affair. Is that right?
We knew of him. There were rumors. I don't remember from who. He was in the picture. I knew he was at Emily's wedding. I didn't know why he was there. I remember my mom and him dancing and all of that, and I got upset. And
this is pane 3. Do you see Rusty in the background there?
I do.
You see him?
I do.
See him in the background there with your mom?
I do.
That's pane 4. Pane 5, you see Rusty in the background with your mom?
I do.
Pane 6, see him back there?
Correct.
See him over here with your mom? Your mom's right through here.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
See him with Chad right here?
Yes. Chad met everybody new. We were only 6 months dating at that point.
And then pane 9, you see him there?
Correct.
This is pane 10. He's right there with your dad, isn't he?
Correct.
Is it not true that you knew about Rusty and the affair at that point?
Not the depth of anything. I just knew I knew he was related to Martha Jane. That was the depth of it. And then my dad would always say something, or Scott would say something, but I tried to stay out of it. I didn't want to get involved.
And did you not get upset, and your sister and brother see you get upset and say something because Rusty was there at the wedding?
I don't know if they saw me, but
Was it
I know
not
that
offensive to you? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I remember vaguely I was intoxicated that night, but I remember he was there, and I don't condone that kind of behavior. I don't. So I could see where I would have gotten upset.
It's just a situation where you see something like that, you just purposely just almost have ignorance, almost just saying, I don't want to see what's happening.
Partially of that, and I knew my dad knew he was there. If my dad accepted it, then I followed my dad's lead.
And you don't know, or do you know how your dad has told other people how he felt, how that affected him? You have any idea what he said, or text, or anything?
No, I didn't after Ted, I told him, and the offensive pictures he sent me and the way he involved me with that, I made it very clear I didn't want to be involved.
So why did you tell law enforcement in July that you didn't know anything about the Rusty Barton affair?
In July
2018.
because I didn't know the depths of anything.
But this was 2016.
I didn't, honestly, I wouldn't have, I knew he was there, but I didn't know, I thought he was related to Martha Jane. And then I just saw the way that they were interacting, and that wasn't normal.
You have learned some new information in this case, but I want to know, in the beginning, you just thought that your dad had heat stroke or something and had maybe passed out on the property on July.
Anything could have been possible.
But that's what you were thinking. Maybe he had heat stroke or something, right?
Yeah.
And then when his remains were found in the burn pile, you were not thinking murder or anything, thinking maybe he just had a medical episode and fell in, correct?
Correct.
You told law enforcement, I just don't know. You were you just didn't know what happened, right?
I was in shock.
In shock. You were able to talk to, I think, Sergeant Hands and then Detective Hayes.
I don't remember talking to Hands. All I remember was talking to Hayes. And again, Hayes could have told me, I don't remember anything.
Right. And sometimes when we have something in our evidence called excited utterance. Sometimes when you're in shock or under the stress, you don't have time to come up with clever things or things. You just come off and just state what's in your heart, right?
I would assume.
So in many ways, being under stress or being under that excitement, you just say what is really there, right?
I guess.
When you learned the first time about your dad having a bullet in him, how did that make you feel?
Confused, shocked. I mean, my mother was the first person that told me, and I didn't want to believe it. And then we had Manny, the attorney, and he was telling us it could be a lie. You know, you have people sitting there going, well, it may not be true, or so you don't know.
I think on July 6th of 2018, at the Freeholm precinct, your mother walked out after being interviewed by Detective Hayes. And you said your mother told you, but isn't it more accurate that Detective Hayes looks at your mom and says, have you told him yet? He actually had to prompt her to tell you about the bullet, right?
It would have been the night of July 5th because we had been out at the property all day long, out in the heat. And he finally asked them to go down. And Chad and I drove down there with them and waited as they interviewed Scott and my mother. And that's when she came out. He may have been talking to Scott at that time. But she said, they're saying your daddy was shot. And I think that was pretty much about it.
Yeah. Detective Hayes had to tell your mom, have you told him yet, right?
Yes, she told me it was Hayes that told her. And she told me.
And you said she put her face in her hands, is that right?
I don't recall.
Let me ask you about some things that you didn't know. You say you did not know about the affair with Rusty, is that right?
Not what I know now.
Right. But in July of 2018, your testimony is you did not know about Rusty. Is that correct?
I had heard rumors from the family that tried to ignore.
You didn't know about your mother's second or burner phone?
Scott had always been saying that she had a second phone. I never asked her about it. I didn't want to get involved.
Are you familiar with the last four digits of a phone number 1987 that your mother had?
No, 9029 was the only one I had.
Okay. Do you know whether or not your mother had a burner phone or another phone?
I purchased a phone for her right after all this happened because I needed a way to communicate to her. And then I bought another one probably in 2020.
Okay. But do you know about a phone number she had that ended in 1987 that she used to talk exclusively with Rusty?
No.
So you don't know about that?
Only from Scott going and saying that he saw her with two phones. That's all I knew.
And those two phones would have been before the phones that you got here, right?
Correct.
Do you know about your mom meeting Rusty almost weekly at times in Dalton?
Not until a preliminary hearing.
But you didn't know about that before?
No,
right?
sir.
So before you knew about that, you believed your mother that she had not committed this crime, right?
Before that, I believe she didn't commit the crime.
Right.
That is correct.
And even knowing about the burner phone and the affairs with Rusty and in the burn pile, you still believe your mother hasn't committed this murder, right?
She told me she didn't do it, and she's never given me any reason to believe otherwise.
All right, let's talk about things to believe otherwise. Judgment approach. Farris, I'm going to put this, Judge, this time I tender evidence A. Farris 1.
No objection.
We'll put it on the screen too. Your belief system when it comes to your mother comes from, in many ways, doesn't come from the evidence. It's coming from your worldview or your the way you see things. Is that fair?
Yes, and probably a little bit of denial.
I want to go to, this is A. Farris 1. It's a phone extraction. And it contains text messages between, is it her? Okay, this is your mother's phone. And I'm on page 2 of the screen here. It's kind of hard to, but there's this from and to.
Mhm.
This is from your mom to you. Did you know about your mother going to Jamaica with Rusty?
No.
In September the 3rd of 2017, did you have any idea that she had gone on to, I think, had something to do with hedonism or hedonistic or something like that, a resort in Jamaica?
No.
All right. If you would, this is from her to you. You see your phone number, everything there?
Correct.
What is the date of this text message?
9/3/17.
Okay, it's a quick sidebar. What's that? Why is lawn crime gone all funny now? Here we go. Corn Pop was just being rude to therapy. Don't worry about it. Just as a reminder, Melody Walker Farris, the defendant, has waived the right to be at sidebars. So, but she has the right in the state to be there. But they waived that right. Is Potty Mouth here? Is she? Little G is here. Hello, Little G. Are they taking a break now? Are they? I presume. That's what you get for cheating on me, Lady Di and Daffodil. Corn Pulp. Corn Pulp. Also known Corn Pulp. Hey, I'd be well behaved today because my ass is on fire. Da, 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 da. Dee, 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 dee. It's interesting. Would you waive your right to? I know the judge said that they would only discuss mundane stuff at sidebar, but I'm not sure. I still want to know and hear everything. I think. More and more, we just want more and more. Do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Me on fire, my ass on fire. Amy Boston says, calling her rude, yeah, he was talking internal hemorrhoids and some guy sticking his fingers up his Boobies or not to bees, Amy Boston. That's quite funny. That's quite funny. Yeah, I'm a nosy bastard. I want to know everything as well. You think that most courts now would have headphones on them?
A Farris 1. Let's do it this way.
Okay, the back.
Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put it on this one.
Okay. All right, wait.
Keep that one blank so the jury can see from this screen and follow along, but then that's not being put on the camera.
So, Judge, I just saw another place on here as we scroll.
So that's fine.
Okay.
I mean, they're not looking at this screen, and they got it killed back there, so we're
So
good.
it's not going to go out even though I see it.
Correct. Arguably, we'll see.
Maybe you understand what we're trying to do, right?
I'll find out tonight when I.
Right. We're trying to keep some things redacted. So my understanding, Judge, is her phone number,
Right.
other information is not going to go on the internet.
That's what we're hoping to try to do. All right, go ahead.
Let's do this. Getting back, you did not know about your mom going on a trip with Rusty to Jamaica. Is that right?
That's correct. I did not know.
On September 3rd, 2017 at 9:10 a.m., your mother sends you this text message. Can you just read out loud for us the body of the text message?
Sherry has talked me into going with her to Minnesota, leaving this afternoon. Be back by next weekend. That's her home, family there, cabin in the woods. Call you in a bit.
You responded on 9/3/2017 at 9:10 a.m. saying, walking into Cracker Barrel now. Is that right?
Correct.
Tell her, respond again, leaving phone in the car. Is that right?
That was me or her. I don't know. Sure.
Okay. September 9th, 2017 at 3:52 p.m., she sends you a text message, and read that, what she tells you about where she's at.
Sherry and I are on way back. Family cabin in woods. Cell service was bad there. Everything okay.
September 9th, 2017, 4:05 p.m., you text her. What do you say?
Yeah, I tried calling you a couple of times. I got Emily's baby shower invitation. Otherwise, everything's same as usual. Did you have fun?
September 10th, 2017, she texted you. What did she say?
So much fun. No contact with anyone. Read a book. Got some sun. Let you know when we get back. Taking our time driving. Enjoying scenery.
You knew where she was in the sense of being in Minnesota based on what she tells you. Is that right?
Yeah, I don't remember these text messages, but I took her word for it.
You've taken her word on a lot of things, haven't you?
It's all you can do with people, I guess.
So she's never admitted to you that she went for a week or so to Jamaica with Rusty.
No.
Did you know about the credit card that Rusty had given her?
I think after the preliminary hearing, but I'm not 100% sure.
Do you know about the tattoo XO that she had?
I think Ella or Addison had mentioned it, but I personally never saw it.
Did she ever say whether or not that was related to Rusty in any way?
I wouldn't have known.
Did you know that she was with Rusty when she got the tattoo?
Wouldn't have known that either.
You didn't ask her those questions?
Why would I? Ella and Addison told me about it. I didn't get involved.
But on July 5th of 2019, when you watched a prelim, you actually told her that you were taking notes on everything that was said during the prelim, right?
Yeah, it was a lot of information coming at once.
You didn't feel the need to go and confront her and say, why haven't you told me this? Why have you lied to me about this?
I don't know if I did or not. I don't remember. I mean, she was arrested at that point. I just don't remember.
Did you know about her vanishing at times after the murder of your father and going up and seeing Rusty?
There was one time that she had left. Scott and Chris and I all knew about it. And she said to me that she was going to see Martha Jane.
Do you know whether or not she's seeing Martha Jane or seeing Rusty?
Had to take her word for it. I didn't know that she was, I knew she was arrested when she got arrested because she called me and said that they had a warrant and she was going in. I had just gotten off work and I was shocked.
When it comes to what you believe and don't believe, we know that you believe your mom is what you testified to, but you don't really believe what your other family members were telling you, right?
No, I think we all have our own opinions, and I think that they deserve to have their own opinion. I never asked them to, from what I recall, to believe her. I just said to give her the benefit of the doubt and let the justice system, let the investigators do their job.
But there were times where, even though it was testified to in the prelim about a bullet, for the longest time, you never wanted to believe. You believe law enforcement was lying to y'all about a bullet being found with your father.
That's what the attorney said.
But
So it was hard
right?
to, I wouldn't say I didn't know what to believe.
Well, you didn't come out and say, I do believe it. You were saying people, you weren't certain of that, right?
I didn't know what was true.
There's some dates that you were interviewed or gave interviews. There's 4 that I have here. Do you remember giving an interview on Thursday, July 5th of 2018, about 23 minutes with Detective Hayes?
Was July 5th?
Mm-hmm. The day your father was found.
Yeah.
At the scene.
I was standing at the fence and I think he was recording me on like a tape recorder or something, I think.
And do you remember giving an interview on Wednesday, July 11, 2018, with a phone call with Detective Hayes talking about they had frozen some of your money, I think $800 or something. Do you remember calling him about that?
I know that. So when I was in middle school and I got my first checking account, we somehow like opened it under my dad. It wasn't his account. I didn't have access to his account, but somehow, some way, my account was attached and they shut down all of my financials as well. Well, I say all of my financials, my one checking account.
And then the third interview, Thursday, November 15th, 2018, about 14 minutes long. You actually returned a phone call to Detective Hayes about some air being deflated in y'all's car.
I don't know if I talked to Hayes about it, but my tires went flat on the left side of my car in my driveway.
And then there was a final interview that I have Friday, April the 24th of 2020. It was about 4 hours long. You went and spoke with ADA Zach Smith.
Yeah, I spoke to Zach.
And you went and talked to him. Is that right?
Yeah, Zach was a nice guy. He approached me after being here one day. I don't know if it was the preliminary or something, and he kindly asked me, because I was a little upset that nobody wanted to talk to me. I'm like, it made no sense to me that I wasn't talked to, and I was like, you know what, since he asked so nicely, and I think it was a couple of times, and I was like, okay, I'll sit down and talk to you. And we had a good conversation. He was a very nice man. I think one of the detectives was there as well.
I want to go through, I got some questions about the first interview. So Thursday, July 5th, 2018. Do you remember you staying that, so that was Thursday, but staying that the night before, your mother called you and said that she was going to the barn to let the goats out or put the goats up or do whatever they do. Do you remember that?
I don't recall.
Would there be any reason that would that be consistent with what your mom would do?
Yes, sir.
It would be.
Yes, sir.
So she would know and go let the goats out and do stuff like that.
Yeah, especially if Scott wasn't there.
Do you remember your mom saying that she woke up on Thursday when y'all found your dad? Before that, about 8:15, she called you and said she was going to Walmart?
Possibly. I think so. I'm not 100% sure. But that would not shock me to say she went to Walmart.
Now, one of the things with your dad, if he would not be at the house, if he would leave, you knew that he would always take his car and his wallet with him.
That would make sense.
And on the 5th, when law enforcement was there, you described that once the remains were found, you kind of went into full panic mode.
Yes.
So what happened?
I went into shock.
Do you remember your mother telling you that your dad was burning stuff on the burn pile on Tuesday?
That was, yes, because Chris was dropping off Addison or went up there for something. And so he was burning shrubbery and things like that.
In fact, that you had walked by the burn pile on the 5th and it was still hot.
Yes, sir.
Now, as you were looking for your dad, you did go down to the basement, to his office down there, and you found where he had sent an email Tuesday morning at about 8:30. Remember that?
I couldn't get on his computer. His
No,
computer.
you found some paperwork or something down there?
Oh, I don't recall. I just remember trying to tap on his keyboard, but he always had a password on it, and I couldn't.
To refresh your memory, just to look at something and see if you can remember. This is a not official transcript of your interview, but I'm going to show you something from your interview. This is page 6 for the record. If you would, just read, just to yourself, just those 2 paragraphs.
Which these two?
Yes, ma'am, just right there will give you context about that.
Okay.
Do you remember now going down to his office and finding an email?
No.
That morning, you did walk up to the barn and saw the tractor, is that right?
I really don't remember if I saw the tractor or not. I would assume I did. Hard to miss.
Do you remember telling law enforcement that's how Mom and Scott knew they did something with the tractor yesterday because the tractor had been moved and the RTV had been moved?
No, sir, I don't remember that.
You still have that same piece of paper there in front of you?
Yes, sir.
Look at the paragraph that says, I was like, well, just read that one to yourself.
No. Uh-huh. Okay.
All right, now, does that refresh your memory that you did say that that's how Mom and Scott, they knew they did something yesterday because the tractor had been moved and our TV had been moved?
Unfortunately not.
Do you remember telling law enforcement that you can tell that I can tell you that tractor's always parked underneath the same awning if they are not doing something with it.
I knew it was always parked under the same awning.
So that tractor, as far as you knew, if it was not being done, it would be parked under that awning and not out as it was that day on the 5th.
That's where it was normally parked, but I don't know if they were doing something. It could have been very well left out. I wasn't involved in their day-to-day farming activities.
Now, you had a view that sometimes is it not true that sometimes you felt like that your dad saw you as your mother's twin?
She said he would say like you kind of you're I don't know how because I don't see it, but I think that maybe that might have something. He may have said something like that.
And you told law enforcement that thought maybe your dad had a view of trying to get his money.
I don't about me trying to get his money.
That your dad thought you were your mother's twin, maybe trying to get his money.
No, I don't think it in that sense. I think it in the way of like our behavior, I guess, in the sense of I don't really know how to put it, but didn't have anything to do over money. I never asked him for anything except for my wedding, but he gave me permission for that.
Would it help to refresh your memory? See if it would help to look at another thing.
Sure.
This is page 9 for the record. Just read that to yourself, that top paragraph.
Okay.
So does that refresh your memory that you did say that sometimes he thought of you as your mother's twin, and I guess was.
I knew that he thought we looked similar or acted similar, I guess. So I knew he thought we had similarities.
And that essentially you were the only child. You said you were the only child that was not trying to get the money. Is that right?
That's correct.
Because that's how you felt, is that you were the only one not trying to get the money.
Money didn't mean anything to me.
Right. But your dad did provide a lot of help to Scott, especially, and Chris and Emily, right?
Yes, because they asked for it,
They relied on him in many ways for finances, right?
unfortunately.
And your dad, when Chad went, he asked your mom and dad for your hand in marriage and went to him and asked him to be married, right?
He did.
That was a happy time for you.
It was.
Yeah, your dad was happy, wasn't
Yes.
he? Yeah. He was happy that Chad was coming to you.
Good Chad's a good man, yeah.
Yeah, and Chad would kind of joke around and kid with your dad because your dad smoked cigarettes and he vaped, so they'd kind of hang out.
Yeah.
And your husband Chad he's a big guy, right?
I'm not as big as my brothers and my dad,
Yeah.
but he's
He's a tough guy.
6'1".
Yeah, he's a tough guy, isn't he?
He's an alpha male.
Yeah, he is. And he's loyal to you, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
And loves you to death.
I hope so.
Loved your dad.
Yes.
Tried to hang out with him.
Yes.
And in fact, it hurt you when your dad approached you and thought that maybe Chad was doing something with Melody.
Correct.
That really made you angry.
Yes.
But he did come to you and say something to you about that.
He
didn't
called me, and then when I immediately told him that there was no way that could possibly be true, he was like, "I'm sorry, baby. I'm sorry. I'm sorry," because they would work him up, and then I would talk to him, and he'd be like, "I'm sorry," and we were fine after that.
And your husband, now fiance, back in 2018, had a very close relationship with your mom.
My husband had a normal mother-in-law, father-in-law relationship. He has a very strong sense of family and being with those that you love. And I think that's why I tried to spend so much time with him in the year leading up to this is because I really wanted to kindle what relationship I could with my parents.
It was attractive what Chad, how he felt about family, right?
He's a good family man.
But he would talk to your mom and text almost every day.
I wouldn't say every day, but I mean, they had a friend. I talked to my mom every day, so it was about the same as me, I guess.
But he would talk or communicate very often with your mom.
I don't know as very often would be, but I mean, they weren't strangers.
I mean, they're friends.
I guess you could say that.
Enjoyed doing stuff together?
Only if I was there. What do you mean by?
No, I mean with you. He was not opposed to your mom.
Yeah, I mean it was, me and Chad, and then it was hanging out with my family. So he was very cordial, very polite.
Gets along with your mom.
Yeah.
Not
he
against
didn't
your
want to try to start turmoil or anything.
He's not against your mom even today, right?
No.
But Scott opposed the marriage a little bit. When he went and asked, Scott was like, nah, I don't think this is right. It's too soon.
That's what I heard.
That didn't make you feel good either, did it?
It's typical Scott.
One of the things you're talking about with law enforcement is that on July 4th, Emily sent out a group text to everybody, including your dad. Do you remember that?
On July 4th, we were at Lake Lanier, and I don't know who. I know Emily was in it, and I know I was in it because she sent a picture of Olivia, and I sent back a picture of Chad and I at Lake Lanier Islands.
About 2 o'clock on the afternoon, Emily sent out a group text saying Olivia misses everybody or something, says hey or something like that,
I believe
right?
so.
And you thought that was odd because your dad, you said she always sends it out, but he never answered back, and he always answers back, always. Your dad would always answer those group texts.
Unless he was busy doing something, but yeah.
I mean, you use the word always several times. That's just what your dad would do. He would respond to the group text with Emily.
And I don't think he would ignore anybody's text messages, but.
And you thought that was strange that he hadn't at that time.
Not at that time, no.
But looking back now,
Looking back on it, yes, but there's been moments in our text messages where I would say something and he wouldn't reply back, and he would text me and I wouldn't reply back.
And then when you were talking to Higgs, you talked about that your mother, the issue of his wallet came up, and she said his wallet was in the car. You said your mother said that the wallet was in the car.
I think she said it was in the car. I just remember that at some point, I think she came out with it. It showed up.
And you talked about your dad was a workaholic. He loved to work.
Yes.
And he would be working, eating all the time.
Yes.
Does it surprise you, or is it shocking to you that during that first conversation, you didn't mention anything about the guns with Scott?
What do you mean?
You didn't say anything about guns.
During what conversation? I'm sorry.
With Hayes, Detective Hayes.
I couldn't think straight.
Do you remember saying that you were upset or angry with the sheriff's office because they made y'all wait outside in the hot sun until they talked to you?
That was a long day. It was
It
a
was a long
painful day.
Very painful day. And they were just trying to figure out what was happening with your dad. So it's a process, right?
As the years have gone, I understand that they had a job to do, and their feelings about our emotions were not at the top of their list.
And from that very first day, you were frustrated with law enforcement, how long they were taking, what they were doing, how they were talking to your mom and things like that. You were just frustrated and irritated with law enforcement.
I think it was a natural sense of being upset with the situation. I think I was angry for many years.
And then on Wednesday, July 11, 2018, do you remember calling Detective Hayes and basically saying that the sheriff's office had improperly frozen your account? That was like $808 or something.
I mean, it was a normal phone call, but I told him that my bank account was frozen because it was somehow tied to my dad's from when I first opened it up. And they asked me to provide like 6 months of records, I think it was. So I pulled them from my Wells Fargo account, and they had it unlocked quickly from what I can't recall, but I had live paychecks at the time. So I just used my husband's money, and then I got my next check. So it wasn't a huge problem.
And then in November 15, 2018, you actually had an incident where someone came up and deflated the tires at your residence in Hall County. Don't give us your address, but it was in Hall County at the time.
Correct.
And you get in touch with Hall County and try to make a report, right?
I think I called 911 because my mother said that she saw somebody running away from the property, I believe.
Right. And your mom said it was a Hispanic male, correct?
I believe so, in like a gray shirt or something.
Right. A gray car maybe, and she had seen him possibly.
I don't know if he had a car, but he was just running.
And you actually had the deputy come out, and your mom says it's the same person that she saw maybe the day before or something. Is that right?
I don't recall that. I had to beg the law enforcement to make a report on it, though.
The law enforcement didn't think there was anything there to make a report on, right?
Correct, but I wanted it documented just in case, because I mean, that's if somebody's coming on my property where we lived, that was worrisome.
And then you took the next step to actually call Detective Hayes and tell him about the incident. Is that right?
I don't remember.
But you do remember that was during the time that Chris was the temporary administrator. And do you remember saying that you believe Chris is behind the deflating of the tires?
I think I was possibly that one of my brothers could have done it, but I didn't know who. I didn't see the person. I mean, by the time I was taking a shower at the time, by the time I came out, just my car alarm was going off, and that was it.
Right, and you were saying it was Chris. You were blaming Chris for this, right?
I don't know why I would be blaming Chris, but looking back on it, that would have been an unbiased opinion because obviously I didn't know I was in the shower, so that would be unfair to do that.
And were you talking with your mom? Did your mom, was it her idea for you to call and make police reports?
I don't remember.
You don't remember?
Either me or her, but I don't. If somebody was on my property, I could see where I would want to call 911 and file a report.
But isn't it true your mom just wanted you to make a record or make a case against your brothers while this was going on? So that's why you're doing it?
I don't think she would have necessarily done that. I think things were said from her about my brothers, but like the phone call, like her, talking about Scott threatening her and all this, I just told her, I said, if you don't get a voice audio or a video, nobody's going to believe you. And I left it at that.
You haven't heard the jail calls that we've had between you and your mother, have you?
No.
Do you remember on June 25th, 2019, having a phone call with her where you talked about writing everything down for the attorney? Do you remember talking about
pertaining to what?
Just writing things down to give to the attorney.
Which attorney? The estate attorney?
Whichever one you were talking about. Do you remember talking about the attorney?
I remember that she was giving me a list for the estate attorney because I had a legal document stating that I could take her personal assets.
Do you remember Chad being on the phone and saying, we're going to do whatever we can to make this shoot go away? You didn't say the word shoot.
I was going to say, I was like, that's something weird. I mean, we were just trying to be positive, and it was a hard time. We were having to go through my parents' house. And
do you remember saying it's all about the money, 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 money?
Everything seemed about money all the time.
And you wanted to make sure that the attorney had all the things he possibly could have?
It was the attorney's responsibility to protect the assets.
And do you remember the conversation there about whether or not Rusty is keeping a check on Chris on Facebook?
No.
Do you remember on June 26th of 2019, another phone call talking about, did Rusty give you a list of things to get out of the house?
I don't recall that. My mother said many things on phone calls, but she gave me a list and I knew what to get.
But you don't deny that around this time you were talking to Rusty on behalf of your mom?
I really don't recall. There was times that she was like, reach out to him, and I did not do it. I didn't want to talk to him.
Do you remember your mom in a phone call on September 6, 2007 saying, does Michael understand the severity of Chris and Scott?
No. But that sounds like something she would say. She was very concerned about Chris and Scott.
How about that we enlightened them? We got the majority of key facts. I got all that to them. Do you remember that conversation all about getting information to the attorneys about Chris and Scott?
No, I assumed that she would have told everything, and I've always been very open and honest about situations with my brothers.
That same phone call, do you remember her instructing you to call Rusty back and talk to him some more?
Probably. She asked me to call him, and I tried to not do that.
On July 5th of 2019, after the prelim and facts came out in the hearing that you didn't know about, you called your mom and talked to her, didn't you?
I would assume so.
Do you remember telling you or saying, let me caution you not to say anything on this phone call?
I said that or she said that?
She.
I would imagine so. She was always, I mean, I knew the phone calls were being recorded and I didn't have anything to hide. So she would say that. I don't know.
Well, I'm not saying you said that. I'm saying
Yeah,
she said.
possibly. I would assume so. I would assume her attorneys advised her.
Do you remember after learning new information, including he's in the burn pile by Rusty, that phone call, do you remember telling your mom that you have a few questions for people?
Yeah, that was a very concerning piece of information. And
But
that's the phone call to Rusty when I had to go get the dogs. And he had talked to him on the phone. I said, did she say this? And he said no.
And then other phone calls, you keep talking about you still stand where you've always stood with your mom. In other words, you still believe that she didn't commit the murder. Remember saying things like that?
I was definitely far more like, I believe everything of my mother. I understand now that this is not my spot to investigate this. And there's no way for me to know everything. Just like Zach told me, y'all have all of the information. It's very hard for me to form opinions. And when I just don't know.
Did you know that your mother said to Rusty, if you don't stop talking, you're going to single-handedly hang me?
No, I don't believe so. Unless that was in a preliminary hearing.
Did she ever say anything to you about be careful on the phones?
She always did. But I didn't have anything to be careful about.
Did she ever ask you to be quiet or shh, don't talk about things?
Yeah, but then she would go on and she would ramble and ramble and ramble about things after that.
You agree with me that this whole ordeal is just awful for you, right?
Traumatizing.
And it does upset you, doesn't it?
Very much.
And you have strong feelings both directions in this case. Is that fair?
I stand right in the middle. And I pray y'all can do your job and figure out what happened.
And you just want the facts, the jury to hear all the facts and make their decision based on the facts and the truth in this case?
Absolutely.
You agree with me that you do have an interest in the outcome of this case, though, right?
How would I have an interest?
I mean, your mother, you don't want anything to happen to your mother, right?
I would hate to see her go to jail, prison. Nobody wants to see their mother in that situation. But if she had something to do with this, then that's where people go who have done things like that.
You agree that we have to, in cases like this, we really have to put the emotion aside and just follow the evidence?
And that's why I cannot do your job.
Would you agree, though, that when you're following the evidence, you have to include and consider everything, including things like the motive, if someone has a motive?
I guess, but I think it would fall down to opinion, possibly.
You agree, though, motive is what prompts the heart to do something, though, right?
I guess so. If you don't have a moral compass or a sense of a relationship with God, then I guess so.
You'd have to consider the means, the ability to do this, right?
Repeat that?
You'd have to consider the fact someone's means or ability to do this crime, right?
Yeah, I guess you would boil it down to sheer physics of it all.
Yeah, when you boil it down, you have to consider who had the opportunity, who was there at the time that this took place.
Yes.
You can't just say Scott did it, Chris did it, she did it. I mean, that's kind of inconsistent. That's kind of like throwing spaghetti against the wall. You just have to boil it down to what the evidence speaks of, right?
That's correct.
You also have to consider who was present on the property in July 3rd at the time that the murder took place. Who was there and who was not there, right?
I would assume so.
You'd have to also consider phone records in this case, wouldn't you?
All evidence is evidence.
And you don't know those phone records, do you?
No.
You don't know the GPS evidence in this case, do you?
No.
You don't know the geofencing evidence that shows who and only whose phone is on the property at the time and after the death of your father.
No.
You'd have to consider that, though.
Oh, yes, you would have. I mean, hopefully everything available.
I mean,
I've
you
seen
would.
other trials where they've used more than that, like the Murdaugh trials, and that was mind-blowing. But I think that any bit of information helps.
And you'd have to consider phone calls between your mom and a lover, right?
Yes.
You'd have to consider all the statements that have been made in the case by your mom and other people, correct?
Yes, I do not pity any of, I mean, not pity, but I do not want to be in your shoes.
You'd have to consider, even if you rejected it, and even if she says, I didn't say that, she didn't say that, you still have to consider Rusty's statement that she told me he's in the burn pile. You'd have to consider it, wouldn't you?
And you have to consider everything, I guess.
And part of that is you'd have to consider the context that when he made that statement about he's in the burn pile, the rest of the statement that I said, do not say another word and do not tell me anything I do not need to know, that is attached to the statement. You'd have to consider it in totality, wouldn't you?
I would assume so.
Right. So if the statement was tried to be explained later on, like he just overheard something being said with Martha Jane, you still have to consider, why would you say don't tell me anything else? Because it comes down to credibility in many ways, doesn't it?
You have to consider everything.
Did you know your mom had a text message one time about your dad says, I hope you die alone in a gruesome death?
No.
You'd have to consider that too, wouldn't you?
Evidence is evidence.
Do you know of the statement about your mom with Rusty talking about being on the same page, and I can tell you that there should not have been as much damage as there was done? Would you know why she would say that?
No.
You know about the statement that she said that that body should not have been burned up?
What do you mean?
Do you know whether or not she's even said that the statement that
don't
body
know.
should not have been burned
I've
up?
never heard anything directly, so no.
If she said those statements to Rusty on a phone call, you would have to consider that. You have to consider that in trying to decide for yourself whether or not you do or don't believe that she committed the murder.
I personally, evidence is evidence. The truth is the truth.
If someone intentionally commits a murder and burns a body, and they're not crazy, they would be conscious of what they did, right?
I would assume so.
You would have to consider in this case, and you yourself would consider, if there's a lot of lies and deceptions, wouldn't you agree with me that that speaks to the guilty mindset of the person that did it?
I don't know.
And you don't know, Amanda, because you don't want to believe your mom committed this murder, right?
I don't want to believe my mother would ever do anything like that. I don't want to believe anybody would do something like that.
Another further judge.
Swear.
Briefly, Judge. Your mother and Chad did not have an affair.
No.
And you said something to the effect of they would work him up. Was that Chris?
My brothers would always try to stir stuff up.
So that's where that idea came from.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I told my parents he had a drinking problem and he was mad, and that was his retaliation.
You would agree that's very cruel. That's a cruel thing that
My brother has said and done things in the past years since this has happened that are very cruel, that are unforgivable almost. But as a Christian, I have to forgive him and understand it was the alcohol.
Your mother has lived with you now for about 4 years.
Yes.
And in those 4 years, she has never admitted to anything, has she?
Never.
And she has always maintained her innocence?
Correct. We've had some serious conversations, and the story remains the same.
You mentioned, it sounded like you were kind of trying to do your own investigation into this case 6 years ago. Is that kind of what
At the beginning,
right?
and then I lost. You can't do anything when you don't know anything. And I grew up, and I understand that I can't control everything, and God's will is God's way. That's it.
But also, is it fair to say that you felt like nobody was questioning you, asking you what happened?
Nobody wanted to talk to me.
Until somebody who used to be in the district attorney's office spent 4 hours with you.
Yeah, he came out of his way to come up to Hall County to talk to me and my husband.
And you felt like you were finally heard
Yes.
years after this incident took place.
That was in 2020. I was pregnant with my son, yeah.
Until now. This is really your first chance to finally be heard in front of this jury.
Yes.
Do you feel like you've said everything you needed to say?
There's just so much pain. There's no good outcome. He's never coming back. He'll never be there again. And that's just the worst part about it all. And knowing that my mother could potentially spend the rest of her life in prison is terrifying. But again, everybody, you have to follow the evidence, and you have to do what you do. And I'm sorry, y'all have to do this. I'm sorry.
Going back to that investigation that you were doing, essentially, too, after you heard what you heard in the prelim, and now this jury has heard those recordings that the district attorney was talking to you about, you questioned Rusty.
Yes.
Adamantly.
Yeah.
I believe you used the words he was a coward.
He is a coward.
And that he was just trying to essentially cover for himself. He was only about himself. Did you say something like that?
Correct.
But when you confronted him, he literally told you he lied.
He just said that she didn't say that. That's all I know. That's from what I can recall, because that's the only conversation I really remember ever having with him. And I blatantly asked him, did she say this? And he said no.
Did he go into any detail as to why?
No, but I probably didn't dig into it. I have a terrible way of not being involved.
Okay. The statement, Mr. Fogus read off to you a number of statements and things that have been presented in this trial, but I just want to get to this one and see if you knew anything about it, since you were around in the Manny Aurora investigation, which he had kind of his own investigators that went out to the house, right? Were you there for any of that?
I was.
All right, so this statement, I think he ran out something about her talking to Rusty about the body wasn't meant to be burned that bad, but there were fire investigators that y'all had hired to go out to the property.
Manny had hired somebody to go out there.
And that information came from that investigator. Were you around for that?
I don't know if I ever heard any of the outcome of it. I just knew that he had hired certain people to go out there, but I don't know how far it went because he only had received so much money and we couldn't afford to pay him.
Okay. Before I said, is there anything else you want to say to this jury?
I'm sorry that you have to be here. I'm sorry I have to be here and everybody in this room. But it's, if I can say anything at all in what this has taught me, is that lean into God, and He will take care of you and give you peace and calm in the storm, and just give you a sense of hope. And I don't know, it's hard to find anything. I hope the truth comes out, and it's going to be painful no matter what happens, because at the end of the day, my daddy's gone, and I miss him.
Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, ma'am. You can sit down.
Well, that was quite emotional to end off there, wasn't it? Oof. This court is very unusual. These sets of attorneys, I think they know each other very well. I think they just sling it. I think they don't really object to each other. They very rarely, even the judge said, you both sides, I can't believe that you don't object to half the things that you haven't objected to. But I think there's a mutual respect between both sides. But they just...
Next witness is an expert who is traveling here today and will be ready first thing in the morning. So we are on track. I believe the evidence will close tomorrow afternoon, at least. And then our plan is to, we're going to do some work on the charge conference this afternoon and probably wrap up that tomorrow afternoon. And then I've told the lawyers I would give them the day off Wednesday to prepare for their closing arguments on Thursday. So y'all are excused from service on Wednesday. I'm not going to say you can't work or something if you want to. That's going to be problematic if you do. So if you do go work, you can't talk to anyone about the case at all, and everyone's going to want to come talk to you. So you're going to have to wear headphones and blinders and put tape over your mouth. So maybe working's not the best idea. If there's some way you can work from home, that would be fine. But anyway, I'm not going to say you can't, but those are going to be problems. All right. With that, we're going to break for the afternoon. We'll be here first thing in the morning, up and running as close to 9 as we can. I know that there may need to be some discussions with the expert. So we may not start right at 9. I'm going to see if we can get the expert here a little bit early so the state can talk to them. But they may need to. Anyway, we'll see how that goes. But I still think we are on track to finish with the evidence tomorrow. All right. With that, y'all can be excused.
Right, the next bit is just a charging conference, and I ain't covering that. I'm not covering that. So sounds good. I mean, she was, yeah, that was very emotional. I think that she's allowed to speak to the jury because both sides are just in agreement. It's like, let's just put everything out there. It's very rare, but I think that is mutual respect on both sides. You can see them doing the breaks and stuff. They're all laughing together and stuff like that. So yeah, I think they get on very well as attorneys. Hello, Kat. Hello, Kat. How are you? No judge can know that. No, there's not. Potty mouth. Hello, my darling. How are you? Vix. And then I've got a work call mixed in there, but it sounds like only one more witness. No, I think there's more witnesses. I think he believes that by the end of tomorrow they will be done, Joe. But there's a expert witness to come in first thing in the morning. So they probably start early tomorrow. So I'll go live tomorrow at 8:30 tomorrow, because I think that if he comes on early, we'll watch it. And then I presume there's other witnesses, but they think they're going to be resting tomorrow afternoon. Wednesday, day off. Thursday, closing arguments. Friday, hopefully, verdict. So, no, the court has never been early, but they're going to ask the witness to come in early, so we might see him. Okay, so there you go, Dennis Sweeney, King of Canton. So, right, what I'm going to do, people, do not move. I am going to redirect you all to my bestie, one of my besties, Sean McDonough. He is live, or it will be going live. So let me do this, and then you'll automatically go straight over there. So bear with me, people, whilst I go find his stream. The mofo, is it members only? If it's members only, I might not be able to redirect you. Oh no, I can't. It's live. Right, so I'll save that, people. Hang on, let me just do this. Let me entertain you. Hey. Right, I will do this. So, with that, people, thank you for being here today, people. The link is there, but I will redirect you now in a second. So, 8:30 tomorrow, we'll be live again. And yeah, look at Dana with his titties out. I love it. Thank you, Lisa. Good night to you, my darling, as well. Oops. So yeah, we will rock you. He's live. His music intros on. It's funny. Spacey Stacey's there already. That mofo. Look at her. She's there. Spacey Stacey. Hi, Darcy. You cheated, mofo. Right, I'm going to close it because of that. You're all over there. Good night, Dana. Good night, everybody. Have a good one. End stream, and see you over there. Fucking Spacey Stacey. Fucking mofo. Have a great day, everybody. Good evening. Good night. Peace out.